What's going on, everybody? And welcome back to another episode of the Get Over Yourself podcast hosted by Brandon Davis. On today's episode, I have Andrew Beaulieu sitting next to me. He is transitioning his life from working in construction, a family-owned business for many years, and he's now helping other individuals transition in their careers and their lifestyles being a coach. And he's going to be diving into that in today's episode. But before we do so, I want to tell you a little bit more about Andrew and where he is calling in from of Montreal, Canada. Andrew is the founder of Bold Moves Coaching and Consulting and is a dedicated career transition coach. Leveraging his personal experience of leaving a family business to spark his entrepreneurial journey, he now empowers others to make similar bold moves. Known as the Bold Move Catalyst, Andrew aids individuals to unlock their limitless potential and successfully navigate career transitions. Guys, super excited to have Andrew on today. For any of you young entrepreneurs trying to figure out what the heck you want to do with your life, this episode is for you. And if you maybe worked inside of a traditional career or your business for quite some time and you have no idea if it's the direction you even want to be headed, Andrew's the man to get us through this conversation today. So with that being said, let's jump into today's episode. Andrew, thanks for joining us, man.
Hey, Brandon, thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah. So you're calling in from Canada right now. We got a couple hour time difference in between the both of us. What's it like at this time of year for you?
It is beautiful. We're hitting sunny weather, not too humid, not too hot. Honestly, it's the perfect time of year. Montreal's a great place to be in the summer.
Heck yeah, I love it. I'm a big baseball guy, so I've been watching the Blue Jay games for the past couple of days. I'm a Dodger fan myself, but
there you go.
I'm hoping closer to the trade deadline, a couple of your Blue Jays will switch on over and become Dodgers. But
we only got the one team. Leave us alone.
That's awesome, though. Yeah. So I want to start off today's conversation. You kind of had your life planned out for you. You had the family business that everyone in your family worked in. It was going great. It's not like the business was failing in any means. You weren't doing anything wrong with it. You even told me before we started recording today that your life wasn't bad by any means. You had your wife, your kids, you worked with your family members, but you just kind of had a sense that you weren't being as fulfilled as you thought you could be. So talk a little bit about that early business and why you kind of started this transition into more of the coaching and helping individuals kind of discover what they want to do with their lives.
Absolutely. When I was younger, I didn't want to necessarily work in construction. I'm not a hands-on guy. I wasn't passionate about construction, but when I finished college, I didn't really know what I wanted to be when I grew up. So looking to make some extra money, I went and worked for my family business one summer as an administrative assistant and was there for 16 years. So
one summer turned 16 years. There you go.
Turned into 16 years. And I started off as being the guy at the bottom of the ladder, worked my way up to being one of the owner operators of the business. It was a partly family owned business. So there was another non-family member partner and we serviced Canada wide doing interior fit ups or renovations. And what I quickly discovered when I was there, I was really good at it. Really thrived on the rush, the adrenaline of what is construction. It's a fast-paced industry. It's high stress. You're constantly problem solving. And for me, that was like a game. It was every day, what's the challenges we're going to face today? And rising to that occasion every single time was a rush. I'm not going to lie. It really was like a badge of honor. Look how much I can handle and how much I can solve. And as a young professional kind of making your mark in that stance, felt good. I felt proud about what I was able to accomplish. The construction was still secondary. It was really more of a personal obstacle, a personal challenge. And then as I grew over time and I grew in the corporate ladder, I really discovered I loved working with people. I became a young manager. I was 22 by the first time I was in my first management position. And I grew that team from being me and another individual to a team of 16. And then I acquired another department. So that went to 20. And then I became a director and also I was 30. And I always just loved working with my staff, my external partners, my clients. I adopted a servant leadership style at a young age. So I really always wanted to be in service of someone else. Like, how can I help you just be the best you are in everything you do? But what anyone in management will tell you is that when you're managing a person, you're not so much focused on the projects that they're managing. You're managing how they show up in their day-to-day, the emotions they bring, their personal life, their trials and tribulations that they face on a daily basis. And I really enjoyed that. honestly, like that really for me was my focus point. I wanted people to feel safe to come talk to me. I wanted to build on relationships. I wanted to make them feel welcome. When they came to work, they were having fun. I'm a guy who likes to make people laugh. I like to joke around. I don't take myself too seriously. And it was when the pandemic struck, and brought me home, that I recognized how much time I was spending away from my family. At the time, I had a 3 year old and a 2 year old. Um, and I was only seeing them on the weekends. I was working 60 plus hour weeks as an owner. The office was an hour drive each direction, so that's 10 hours of driving a week. And at that moment, I kind of realized, what am I doing? I don't love the construction aspect. There's a lot of things that I, when I really sat with it and thought about it, there's a lot of the things of the jobs that didn't serve me. But the aspects that I loved weren't specific to the industry. So I said, well, what if I was to extract what it is that I love and that fuels me, that makes me happy, and I'm able to be more present at home and more effective at home and be the hands-on father I always wanted to be. And so that was kind of the trigger, the light bulb moment that made me want to make a change.
So I want to dive into your managerial kind of persona that you
Yeah,
gave off. It's Management's tough. It's flat out
yeah,
tough. And everyone has their own unique fashion. Some people do it a whole lot better than others. But one kind of trend is nobody ever wants to necessarily be the mean, rude boss. And it sounds like you got along with a lot of your employees, a lot of your staff.
yeah.
And as a manager, some people chase after that kind of position like you, and it's an opportunity for you to go and serve other people and help them out in any means. But at the same time, it could be very tough. You have to lay people off. You have to give them the harsh reality of the situation. You have to tell them to go get their work back, go back to work.
Mhm.
There's a lot of tough conversations you have to have as well. What was your management style like when you were trying to be the friend, but also the boss? Did they ever commingle in a negative way? And what advice would you give to somebody who's in that process of hiring on their first kind of sales reps or other operations team, and they might be in that situation where they want to be the friend, they want to be the good boss that everyone likes, but also we need to get stuff done.
You can be both. I'll just start there. You don't have to be necessarily one or the other. Obviously, you adopt your leader. When you're a leader, when you're a manager, you're not just one style. You adjust your style. You adjust your communication for your audience. You don't talk to the same way to necessarily two or three different people. Um, my style was treating them as people. I'm a human centric person. I was very clear and concise on my expectations and the expectations of the organization. Um, a lot of times, if there's if it's vague or if it's not clear enough, that's often where things can kind of fall off track. Is saying it wasn't clear, wasn't communicated that way. So you want to be as clear and concise as possible. You want to listen to understand where people are coming from. You want to really lead with empathy, and you want to show them that it's a team effort. It's yes, they have a job to do, but if they're being working outside of their comfort zone, if they're working in something that's really above their skill set at that time, they want to know that they're not in it alone, that they're not being shot into the fire to fail, that they have a support system, a community within the organization that's really going to help them. And so when it came time to reprimand, and I did lay people off and I did fire people, and I'm still
Hmm.
friends with these individuals today. We still get together, we still talk. Almost every single one of them. Almost every single one of them. There are exceptions. But it's because by the time it got to the point of laying someone off or firing them, we had crossed every T, we have dotted every I, we have tried everything. And it was very honest, it was very open, it was transparent. It wasn't holding any close cards to my chest. I was being an open book.
Hmm.
And so when it got to the time where it's like, this isn't working, it was kind of an agreement on both sides of the table saying, you're right, this isn't working. It was almost a mutual parting. Doesn't make it that any easier. It's not a fun conversation to have. It is emotionally charged. But when you get to that point, they say, yeah, for whatever reason, this I'm just not clicking here. Not sure what it is. It's not because necessarily the people, but maybe it's just the type of work that we do was very specialized. So like this isn't necessarily when I want to be. And I've seen people call me years after and say, thank you. Um, I'm doing something that is much more fulfilling for me now, a lot more successful in this area, and I wouldn't have recognized that if we didn't have those hard conversations at the time.
Right. And I gotta ask too, being inside of an industry, you already mentioned this or you touched on it at the very beginning. You worked for 16 years, not necessarily knowing whether or not you loved your career. You knew you loved the people, you knew you loved working with them and helping them grow and kind of at the same time growing your company, but you started having later on in your career these kind of external factors drive you away from the business. You had little time with your family once you actually became one of the part owners. You were driving the hour there, an hour back every day, which was cutting into, like you said, 10 hours of your week just in the pure commute. Then I'm sure there's other operations that took away your focus when you got home. Some kind of project went awry. You had to take the phone
For
call,
sure.
answer the email. There's probably a million things you could talk about on that. But for people who are struggling in that same boat right now, where they might not feel as fulfilled or satisfied in their careers as they think they possibly could be, they always grew up thinking this is the direction I want to head, but once they actually got there, it wasn't for them. What are some external factors that they might recognize to see if they're in that pattern? Because, like you said, it took you 16 years to figure this out, that that wasn't the direction you wanted to head. And so, if somebody who's kind of struggling, but they don't necessarily see some of those circumstances that would cause them to leave, what kind of signs would you be looking for or address to them?
Yeah. It took me 16 years and a global pandemic for me to
Yeah, there
kind
you
of
go.
have that light bulb moment. Not everyone's going to have necessarily that opportunity. We don't want that to happen again. So, um, you touched on something, talking about external factors, and a lot of people are living a life that they thought they should be living. Um, Parents have expectations of us, our friends have expectations of us, our communities have expectations of us, and often we're trying to live into that social construct of, what should my life look like? You know, um, the very first thing is you got to cut out the noise. You really have to look internal, and you have to say, is this what I actually want to be doing? When I worked in construction, I didn't love construction. And not to say that there were factors of my parents or family pushing me, but everyone worked there. So it just seemed like the path of least resistance. It seemed accessible, and it kind of seemed that's the way it should go. But, you really need to look internal. You really need to look at yourself and say, if I get away from all the noise of everyone else telling me how my life should be, I'm not satisfied with where I'm at. And some of the telling signs is going to be, how present are you in your life? Are you always living, oh, it's going to get better when, it's going to get better when, it's going to get better when? If you're living that life, that's a red flag. Because life is now. It's not down the street. It's not next week. It's not a month from now. It's today. Nothing is guaranteed in life. Live today. So,
Can, can I jump in on that real quick though?
absolutely.
I want to pick and pry here for a second. Sometimes
Absolutely.
when the guest goes on, I lose my train of thought on this. So I want to pick and pry on that exact statement. Do you not think that the 16 years of your life you dedicated towards that business also helped you grow into the person you became today? Because I would
Absolutely.
personally argue um, that what you were just saying there is a red flag. I think sometimes you need those sort of building blocks. If you keep pushing it off and saying it'll be better next week, it'll be better next month, it'll be better next year, we just have to get the business in this direction or this direction or that direction. Sometimes I feel like you need that to figure out what the heck you want to do in the first place, right?
Everything happens for a reason. I'm not going to say no. Um, I don't regret any of my 16 years at the
Mm.
company. I think every experience led me to be the individual that I am today, the leader and the parent. But I'm also, I also count my blessings for the pandemic to have brought me home and give me that experience. So, like, everything happens for a reason. If there's an opportunity in everything, what I mean by it's going to get better when is those people who don't have that kind of wake up moment. Like I said, a global pandemic's not going to hit again tomorrow to give someone that opportunity to pause. So if you're constantly saying it's going to get better when, and you've been doing it for 10 plus years, maybe take a stop and think for a second and say, is it actually is it actually getting better? And what have I sacrificed to get to where I am today? If you're sacrificing all the pleasures of life, meaning you're not traveling because, oh, I don't have time to travel, my job is too demanding. You have a young family and you're only seeing them on the weekends. I'll tell you right now, for any of the parents listening who may or may not know this, it's in the small stuff. It's in the small moments every day that are really the most meaningful. It's not those big things. Taking a vacation with your kids twice a year, 3 times a year, whatever you get, is not enough. You need to spend daily quality time with your children, and quantity at a young age. My kid's 3 2. It's quantity that matters. The quality comes later in life when you only get to see them when they want to see you. Um, so it's really taking that moment in time and saying, am I am I constantly working towards a life that I may never achieve? The get better when, you don't know if it's ever going to get better. You only know what's happening today and how you feel today. And so if every Sunday night you're dreading to go into work because you're like, another grind this week and doing something that I'm not it's not energizing me. It's not fueling me. It's not giving me motivation. When someone says, "Hey, what's new in your life?" You say, "Oh, same day, same stuff." Sorry, I was trying to not swear. Um, uh, if you find yourself on that side of the coin, it's time to look in the mirror. It's time to say, it's not to say you're going to make a change. It's not, you might make some small adjustments, but you might not change your career. What I did was a bold move. It's drastic. It's to say, okay, I'm literally going to go from managing a construction company, to managing a coaching business. Those are not similar things. They're very different industries, very different audiences. But that was what I felt served me. Other people just might make adjustments. They say, I might be more intentional with my time. I might make time to come home earlier during the week. I may not answer my phone past 5 o'clock if I don't have to, if it's not a 911. But you get caught up in the adrenaline and the hustle and bustle of everyday life, and we tend to wear our stress like a badge of honor. Like when we feel stress in a corporate environment, you feel like this is what it's supposed to be. This is what I went to school for. This is what I've been training for. I'm resilient. I'm adaptable. Look at me. No, you don't get a medal at the end of the day for being the guy who wears the stress on his sleeve. You don't get to be the guy who makes all the sacrifices and get a reward at the end of the day. What you get is what you put in. You might move ahead in the corporate life, but life is more about. It's not just about work. There's other things.
And I will point out too, I 100% agree, and I appreciate you digging into that a little bit deeper. Some people do enjoy that kind of grind, that climbing, those difficult nights, those late nights. And I think the overall thing we could say to that is to each their own. If you feel satisfied, there's a reason we have these doctors who work crazy hours performing surgeries, these lawyers who work into the late of the night, these amazing tech startups that change the revolution of our entire lives. It's because they had people who were crazy enough to go and chase some of those things and they enjoyed it. But if you're one of these people who is sacrificing the time with their family, they want to have more, but they just don't have the time in the day. I think that's who we're really targeting in here.
Absolutely. I mean, to each their own. To your point, everyone is the own driver in their own life, and I'm all about power of choice. You're going to make your own decisions, but I think having an awareness of the decisions you're making are important. And oftentimes we're on that autopilot. We're letting just the adrenaline drive our day to day. And it's really when you stop and think and get that awareness of, am I truly happy? Uh, am I fulfilled? Because success and fulfillment are two different things. Success is outward. It's the external. It's look at my achievements. It's look at my house. It's look at my car. It's look at my clothes. It's really, success is got more of a traditional monetary value to it, or academic achievements. Fulfillment is inwards. Fulfillment is how you feel. Am I happy? Am I loved? Am I encouraged? Fulfilling is really being able to be present and cherishing the small moments. So really, the goal is to have both. You want to be successful and you want to be fulfilled. Those doctors, those lawyers, those tech startup guys that you're just talking about, they get fulfillment in their success, but it comes at a cost. A lot of these guys have either burned through their relationships and their marriages. Their divorce rates for lawyers are very high. It comes at a cost, but it's what gives them fulfillment. So yeah, to each their own. You want to be successful, you want to be fulfilled, and that's what does it for you, by all means. But
Heck
to
yeah.
everyone else who sacrifices at the expense of their partner or other friends or their children, this is just a kind of not again, it's not a sign to say, hey, make a change. It's a sign to
Mhm.
say, hey, just be aware of what it is that you're giving up for everything that you're doing, and then you make the decision if it's worth it.
Definitely. Andrew, as we're kind of coming up here on a close of today's episode of the Get Over Yourself podcast, you took the interesting route of owning and managing the construction business, which you said had business all around Canada. I'm sure it was going very successful. And you took that leap of faith. You realized you weren't as satisfied and fulfilled as you originally thought, and you started your coaching business. And a specific question I wanted to ask you today, there's plenty of coaches and there's a lot of coaches and, online gurus that are popping up in today's age. But one interesting fact that I wanted to ask you specifically on is you have a lot of experience working inside of the construction industry, yet you didn't choose to be a coach inside of that realm. And so for a lot of my listeners out there they have that entrepreneurial spirit, but they don't necessarily have the great grand idea that they want to go chase currently. I feel like there's a reason why it's booming right now. A lot of people are doing it because it's a successful industry and a lot of people are recognizing the success that comes with it. And so I feel like it's a place where a lot of people with expertise and life experience can jump in and try and get started in finding something more meaningful. And that's exactly what you've been working on. So
Yeah.
anyone who's interested in saying, hey, the career I've been working in for the past 20, 25, 30 years, I'm not feeling it anymore. I listened to this conversation with Andrew today. I'm not feeling it, but I am feeling the desire he had to go serve other people. He was a great manager. I'm a great manager. I want to go do something similar. So what advice would you share with anyone out there who's interested in learning more about becoming a coach and starting their own coaching business?
Yeah, for me, when I started the process, it was very much exploratory. I learned so much more about myself going through my coaching training program in a very short period of time, because it really is, in a 12-month program, 9 months was geared about who I am. It was clearing up my tolerations. It was bringing forth my awarenesses. It was helping me create my boundaries, which are ways of communicating intentions. It really needs to focus on yourself. So that aspect of self-improvement and self-development really comes to the forefront. And to your point, Brandon, it's an evolution. Where I was 7 months ago when I took my practice full time to where I am today, there's been an evolution. My brand has evolved. My target audience has evolved. Um, it's about taking that first step. If you have that itch to saying there's something bigger than myself out there that I feel like my services can be a use for, I can help someone. It's about taking that bold move, and bold is really just courageous. It's about taking that courageous step towards that light. You don't know where it's going to bring you. I will tell you right now, the journey of being an entrepreneur is one of many twists and turns, but it's exciting because it's just an evolution. You feel like you're continuously growing and challenging yourself. And there are high points and low points, but all of them are meaningful in helping you to develop yourself. It's about taking that first step, and coaching, why it's being why it's so, I don't want to use the word trendy, why it's so big right now, it's exploding really, is because it's exploratory. It's a different form of communication. It's all about you making choices based on exploring your values and your wants and your needs in your life, because no one knows you better than you. Consultants tell you what to do. Therapists don't tell you anything. Parents will tell you what to do. Coaching, we're not attached to the result. We're non-advisory. We're exploratory. We ask questions. We ask you what's meaningful for you. So working with a coach for me was very helpful in exploring what I wanted to do in my future. And going through the program obviously very helped in that as well.
Heck yeah. I appreciate that, Andrew. Guys, as always, Andrew, all of his information is going to be in the episode description down below if you want to check him out online and even get in contact with him. His DMs are open and you can feel free to reach out to him. Andrew, as we do close out today's episode of the Get Over Yourself podcast, if the entire world could hear you in this exact moment and you could give one piece of advice, what would it be and why?
Happiness is not by chance, it's by choice. We are in control of our decisions, and we get to design the life that we want.
That's perfect. I appreciate you, Andrew. I appreciate for everything you've been talking about today. I feel like it's very applicable. Guys, if you feel stuck in your careers right now, if you feel stuck in the business you've even created, this is your wake-up call. Go and take the advice that Andrew gave today. Analyze your situation. Look at these external factors that may be playing into the situation. Why are you feeling sad? Why are you feeling down? Why do you feel unsatisfied inside of your career, your job, your business, whatever it may be? Go and figure that out and start making the necessary adjustments. And the reason why Andrew did it had a global pandemic effect. He literally had to wait for COVID to hit to recognize this. So here's your advice. I don't think we're going to be wearing masks again anytime soon. I don't know that the American people or the Canadian people would be down to wear masks again. But what I can promise you is if you take these internal views and you sit back and you actually reflect inside of your life and realize, am I happy? Am I satisfied? Am I fulfilled? And if you're not, go and figure out what will make you fulfilled. We have a short life, guys. 80 to 100 years on average. We don't got much time. If you're already in the middle of your life, you really don't got much time. It's time to make the change now. So once again, Andrew, I appreciate you for being here. We'll add all of his description down below if you want to reach out to him. And with that being said, we'll see you guys next week.